exploring the Mossad role in the 9/11 affair. He'd have done much more to contribute to that by just letting Alan Hart talk. Well, from what I could get out of what Alan Hart was saying or believed about the matter, at least as he expressed it at that time, was that he believed that perhaps the 9/11 conspiracy to attack New York City and the Pentagon or wherever they were going to attack was a legitimate, quote-unquote, a real Muslim plot in the first place, but that Israeli intelligence caught wind of the plot and then manipulated it. Well, that is essentially what I have always believed. But I have always believed that the Israeli role in it was not just watching it from afar. I believe that there was deliberate, in-depth, on-site, hands-on, however you want to describe it, Israeli involvement.
This video is a response video I made, I promised, to Wesley Norris after I came home from work regarding no planes idea, the no plane scenario believed by, unfortunately, probably hundreds of thousands, even millions of people. The proponents of this idea that no hijacked planes crashed anywhere on the designated targets, which happened on September 11, 2001, echoed by Thierry Mason, David Ray Griffin, Alex Jones, Jim Fetzer, Kevin Barrett, Ace Baker, Morgan Reynolds, John Lear, pilots for 9/11 Truth, the CIT team, Loose Change, and most recently Christopher Bolin, Rebecca Roth, Judy Wood, and Barbara Honecker. And unfortunately, these people have a large audience, a large base behind them, and they hide their movement inside the overall general movement, which is the 9/11 Truth movement. And the problem with the 9/11 Truth movement is that they have many competing factions within this movement that have dissected from one another. And this is the reason why the Truth movement itself has remained stagnant. They haven't done any movement at all. In fact, you can argue that they've gone backwards. And because of people I've named previously, is a big reason why. I mean, there's other competing factions which I won't get into, but let's concentrate on the idea that no planes were hijacked by Arab hijackers. They make it out to seem that hijacking planes is something of an anomaly or something that couldn't possibly happen, especially on that day. When you had over 26 incidents just in the period of the 1980s alone, 23 in the 1990s. And I'll just name a couple. TWA Flight 847, which was hijacked by the Lebanese Shia Amal on June 14, 1985. Egypt Air Flight 648, which was hijacked by three members of the Abu Nidal organization, who was considered the godfather of modern day terrorism on November 23rd, 1985. Who could forget Pan Am Flight 103, a bomb planted inside a radio, which exploded and caused the plane to explode over Lockheed, Scotland in thousands of pieces, which also saw an innocent man go to jail for it. His name was Abdel Basset El-Magrahi on December 12, 1988. Air France Flight 8969, which was hijacked by the Islamic Group of Algeria, the GIA, on December 24th, 1994. And of course, the initial precursor to the 9/11 attacks, which was the Philippine Airlines Flight 434 bombing by none other than Ramzi Youssef, which was a test for the Bajinka plot. But fortunately, the bomb was not placed by the fuel tanks. It was placed 3 seats to its north, which was a mistake by Ramzi Youssef. It killed one person, unfortunately. The person who sat underneath the bomb, he died. But this led into the testing for the Bajinka plot, which is where 9/11 was orchestrated from, not from Operation Northwich, which a lot of truthers mistakenly believe that 9/11 originated from. No, The Bajinka plot, which was conspired by three people, Ramzi Youssef, his uncle Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who is the supposed orchestrator of the 9/11 attacks, and Abdul Hakim Murad. And the idea was to have 12 timing mechanisms planted on 12 flights on numerous airports throughout Asia, Thailand, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, and to have the planes from Asia traveling to the United States, and they would all detonate. These bombs would detonate on Timex watches 2 minutes from each other, and the planes would explode over the Pacific, killing everybody on board, of course. And also, the plane debris would then sink into the bottom of the ocean, and there would be no proper investigation. Um, the notion of 9/11, or the idea of using the plane itself as a weapon instead of planting a weapon, originated in a discussion by Abdul Hakim Murad, who was a close associate of Ramzi Youssef, in in a conversation to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Murad stated to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Murad, by the way, who is a pilot, he trained um, as a pilot in Saudi Arabia, um, and stated to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, now that the security agencies would be looking from bomb aboard, instead have the pilot have an Arab operative, a terrorist operative, train as a pilot, and then use the plane itself, um, as the weapon, as the weapon, and crash it into a high valued United States target. And the first target that Abdul Hakim Murad thought of was CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. And this was the first notion, or the first idea, that a plane would be used as a weapon. And this was in 1995, no less. Murad was um, arrested, and he informed Philippine police, the PNP, the Philippine National Police, and the head investigator, Rodolfo Mendoza, about the idea for the Bajinka plot and the idea to smash planes into American targets. Um, in the Bajinka plot as well, targets such as the Golden Gate Bridge, World Trade Center, CIA Langley headquarters, the White House, were future targets for planes to be impacting to these specific designations. Later on, when the FBI um, went through the laptop in which Murad went back for when he was arrested in a raid. Well, not it wasn't a raid. It was actually where the hotel they were staying at in the Philippines caught on was filled with smoke, in which they were preparing the bombs to be used for the Pachinko plot. One, the chemicals exploded in the sink, and they had to flee because the smoke was too overwhelming. Ramzi Youssef left the laptop behind and told Abdul Hakim Murad to go back and get it. And fortunately for all of us, he did. And he was caught trying to flee from the premises. And he related the information to the Philippine National Police. And I'll play a small clip from him.
Saying an airplane being crashed into the World Trade Center immediately caused a flashback to informations I obtained in 1995, and I told that they have done it. So I was really teary-eyed, to be honest, and I don't know what to say. And I woke up my wife and told him that, see, I know that they will be doing this, but I don't know when. And I have to visualize, analyze deeply the debriefing informations provided by Murad. But when we discuss his pilot training and other training of some Arab nationals in the U.S., I have reasons to believe that that plan during that time is already in effect and is existing. They are in the stage of preparation.
from here, the 9/11 plot grew. And in 1996, the NSA required a phone tap from Osama bin Laden's cell phone, which was obtained in New York City and then given it to Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan. This phone would make regular calls to an al-Qaeda safe house in Yemen owned by Ahmad Mohammed al-Hada, who, incidentally enough, was a son-in-law of Khalid al-Mihdhar, who became a future 9/11 hijacker, who was also involved with the USS Cole bombing in 2000.
Human analysts plot out which numbers are being called from bin Laden's phone and how frequently. They quickly discover that most of the calls from bin Laden's phone in Afghanistan are going to a house in Yemen, 2,000 miles to the south.
So the NSA has now a wiretap from the cell phone to the safe house from 1996 to 2001. That's 5 years. The NSA monitors all the calls from this house and to all the other potential terrorist cell numbers as well that was contacting the safe house in Yemen. Now, the NSA reluctantly shares minimal signals intelligence, or in short, SIGINT, with the CIA's Alex station. Alex station was this CIA station that was following or monitoring Osama bin Laden and the organization, the Al-Qaeda organization, and financial transactions and everything else that was involved with the organization. Now, Michael Scheuer nags the NSA for full transcripts and full cable information, full data, human intelligence and signal intelligence regarding the wiretap. And the NSA would give him half the cables or half the information. And even with the half information that the CIA gets from the NSA, that information was never shared with the FBI. And you had 2 FBI field agents that were working with Alex Station. 2 of them were Mark Rossini and Doug Miller, and they were left clueless because they never got the information. In 2000, they happened to peer into a cable that showed that Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hamzi got U.S. visas, full visas to travel to the United States and abroad. And when they tried to share this information, they were blocked from doing so. Mark Rossini was threatened with arrest if he shared this information with the FBI. And Doug Miller, who tried to draft a cable to inform the FBI about the visa and the information, his passport, which was photographed by the CIA during the Malaysia summit meeting in his hotel. Doug Miller's cable was blocked. In fact, it was intercepted by CIC station chief Tom Wilshire, and they were blocked from sharing this information.
So to recap, an FBI agent learns a phone number from a terrorist. That number is immediately monitored by the CIA and the NSA. They learn about 2 terrorists traveling, and then in January 2000, to a terror meeting in Malaysia. I, as an FBI agent assigned to the CIA, and my colleague, Special Agent Doug Miller, read the cable. Doug decided to tell the FBI about the contents of that cable, that 2 terrorists had been followed and they had visas to come to the U.S. More importantly, that was learned when they transited through Dubai, their passports were photocopied, and it was discovered they had visas. And that's the moment when 9/11 could have been interrupted. And I know that's kind of heavy to say, but if the FBI had been passed Doug's memo officially, which basically was it's called a CIR, a Central Intelligence Report, and that report is a very generic report, just saying, hey, FBI, 2 bad guys were followed, and they had visas to the U.S. You should know about this, and you and immigration and everybody else should put a watch on them so they don't come to America. Or if they did come to America, the FBI would be on them like, I hate to use that childish expression, like white on rice, but would be all over them and would be following them. And the FBI didn't get a chance to do that.
What I'm trying to tell you is that this information was not shared with either of the competing agencies, the NSA, the CIA, and the FBI.
But author James Bamford has investigated and come up with a chilling tale of terrorists living in San Diego, communicating with bin Laden's operations center in Yemen, moving freely about, and all the while, NSA is listening in.
But the NSA never alerted any other agency that the terrorists were in the United States and moving across.
Now, this leads into a lot of confusion, and also it leaves the door wide open for these conspiracy theories propagated by the people I just mentioned earlier in the video. And I can understand that there could be suspicion, but to suggest that no planes were crashed anywhere on 9/11 is just ridiculous, especially when you have hundreds of thousands of people in New York City, including myself. I was on my rooftop in Brooklyn, New York, and saw United Airlines Flight 175 crash into the South Tower. So did hundreds of thousands of people. You had over 130 people who saw a Boeing airliner crash right into the Pentagon. You had numerous, dozens and dozens of residents in Somerset County in Pennsylvania that saw United Airlines Flight 93 crash nosedive right into the ground. If the idea or the operation 9/11 was to have planes used and crashed into targets, why not simply allow the planes to crash into their designated targets? If not, it makes no sense. Why not just have the hijacked planes crash into their designated target? To believe otherwise makes no sense. You have two points here. One, you still have to kill the passengers on board. Where did they bring the passengers? If there was no hijacked planes, people got on the plane, obviously. They bought their ticket, they got on the plane. Who intercepted these planes? Where did they bring the passengers, and where did they kill them? And where are the bodies? So now you have numerous questions, right? Numerous claimants that if you're an honest researcher, you have to answer each one. Now, if you're going to just repeat the scenarios brought on by these 9/11 celebs that I just mentioned, then you're not doing proper research. You're just echoing the same sentiments as they purported, right? Two, where did the planes land? Where did the hijacked planes land? Where were they switched in the air? Where did the planes, drones outfitted to be hijacked planes come from? Who worked on these operations? Who worked on those planes? If not, and it was missiles, name one eyewitness who saw a missile fired from who knows where over the Atlantic Ocean. What happened to the hijacked planes? Who dismantled them? It's all a bunch of work that doesn't need to happen. It's just more work than what they're given. The easier scenario is to have the planes hijacked, allow them to be hijacked, allow the hijacks to hijack those planes, and then have NORAD, or Northeast American Air Defense Systems, the Pentagon, just ignore the commands of, say, Dick Cheney, or some intelligence agency, or some foreign agency institution that knew of the attacks that were coming, and just ignore the warnings or disregard the warnings altogether, and just have the hijacked planes, crash into their targets. And then feign ignorance in the two congressional inquiries anyway. I mean, even years later, Thomas Drake came right out and told the Joint House Inquiry and the 9/11 Commission that the NSA knew of this information, knew about the Al-Qaeda hub in Yemen.
I'll also tell you 9/11 could have been prevented. One of the things that's not well publicly known is that part of my whistleblowing involved being called as a material witness in the short months after 9/11 for 2 9/11 congressional investigations in which I gave highly classified information, operational intelligence, information that NSA had never shared, or information it did not know it had that was never shared, that if it had been shared and properly acted upon, probably would have stopped 9/11 alone, separate from any other intelligence agency or department.
For 5 years, you don't think that they were talking about the 9/11 attacks and what they were talking about? and what it involved and what it entailed between who knows who, between Muhammad Atta, Marwan al-Shehi, Ramzi bin al-Shib, Muhammad Zamar, Osama bin Laden, uh, Hanbali himself, and you pick any number of these terrorist operatives that were talking on these phones for 5 years, and you can make the argument that the NSA knew about the attacks, didn't inform the FBI, but somehow the CIA knew about the attacks because they were doing their own human intelligence on Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hamsi. They got half the information from the NSA. I'm not saying that they participated in the attacks because they didn't. Did they know about the attacks? Certainly did.
The CIA analyst who attended the New York meeting acknowledged to the Joint Inquiry staff that he had seen the information regarding al-Mihdhar's U.S. visa and al-Hazmi's travel to the United States, but he stated that he would not share information outside of the CIA unless he had authority to do so. That's what he told our staff. Do you disagree with that?
Sir, I've talked to him as well.
Do you disagree that he said that to our staff?
Well, no, I don't disagree. He said it to your staff. I'm telling you what
Did he
told
tell you something differently?
Yes, sir. He
Okay.
gave me a different perspective.
So he told
on the
you
meeting.
and he told our staff something differently.
Well,
okay.
but I think it's important, sir.
Yeah, but our time is limited, so let me just keep going. That's the answer. He told you something differently from what he told our staff. Mr. Mueller, Director Mueller, at that June 11th meeting, did the FBI know that Mihdhar and Hazmi were at the January 2000 meeting of al-Qaeda operatives in Malaysia?
I don't believe they did.
All right. So we still don't know in June of 2001 what the CIA has known for 15 months.
You could say the NSA surely did. The CIA, just about. They knew that Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hamsi were involved with the USS Cole bombing. They didn't share that information with the FBI until August of 2001, just 2 weeks prior to the September 11th attacks, where it was too late. And the information that they gave the FBI was that Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hamsi were already in San Diego, but they were long gone from there then. The idea that the planes were holograms or that they were inserted by the media, and now you're involving the Fox and NBC and everyone involved, making 9/11 into this huge operation involving tens of thousands of people, even thousands of people, and then telling them to be quiet. It's ridiculous. Instead, why not allow the hijacked planes to simply crash into their targets? It's much easier this way. And then you can openly lie about it while testifying before the 9/11 Commission or the Joint House Inquiry, which is what the CIA basically did. George Tenet, Cofer Black, Dale Watson, they all lied. All three of them. Condoleezza Rice, even she lied about the attacks. She lied about the idea that planes would be used as weapons. She had no idea. They knew as far back as 1995 when Rodolfo Mendoza, the lead investigator into the Bajinka plot, told the FBI and let them have the information regarding the future plans to hijack planes. What did the FBI do with it? You tell me. But that this notion that no planes crashed anywhere on 9/11 is really irresponsible of you to believe. You, the victim of these frauds like Loose Chains and CIT and Pods for Land and Truth, Jim Fetzer, Alex Jones. You became a victim of this lie, this fraud. And this is not saying that I'm for the 9/11 Commission's final report or the official story. The official story is bogus. It's the biggest conspiracy of all. It's the biggest lie of all. However, the basics are right. 4 planes were hijacked. 4 planes crashed into their targets. That's about as much as I agree with the 9/11 Commission report. And also, just to add before I let you go, just for irony's sake, 9/11 wasn't even just about 4 planes. It was supposed to be a much bigger operation. And maybe in a future video, I'll cover that as well.